Okay, we're starting here with our Chapter 3, Wiley plus exercise, or excuse me, not really, it could be Chapter 3. In our book, it's Chapter 17, and we're going to look at problem 17-5A. It should be in your handouts inside your Blackboard course. If you, again, you don't have these, ask your instructor, and I can make those available in your Blackboard course in the resources area. For this problem 17-5A, it looks intimidating when you first look at it. You see a whole bunch of blank spaces, so I wanted to go through this to make it less intimidating, and it's kind of a good review of everything we've done in this chapter. The first thing we're going to start out with is our equivalent units. So let's look at what they've given us for this month of July. It tells us we had 590 units that were partially completed at the beginning of the month. So of course we're going to finish those up and move those on to a different section. We have 1,230 new items that were started. Some were completed out of that. And then 530 out of those 1,230 were partially completed by the end of the month, but we're going to need to finish them next month then as well. So we want to be able to determine how much in equivalent units of materials that I use and in conversion costs. And then later on, we're going to need to know finally how many items were actually transferred out. And that was some of the first three things we did in our lecture of the previous video that you hopefully have seen. So let's start in on this one. First thing they ask is it's just equivalent units, so we're just using this top information up here for right now, then we'll get down here to the costs. Our first thing here, equivalent units for materials. We have all the materials already from the work in process, so that's 590, and I'm going to have a calculator up. You won't be able to see it, unfortunately, but you want to keep going with us. So there was 590 and plus 1,230 of items started. So when you add those two together, that's 1,820. That's how many units total I had possible to work with for this month. The beginning stuff plus the new stuff that I started. And then it's telling me out of those 1,820, there are still 530 left in our specific department. So if I wanted to kind of jump ahead just a bit, and one of the questions I wish they would have asked us here in Part A was how many items are actually transferred out. That's what I like to do first. So I had 820 possible when you add up those first two numbers. And then if you subtract out what's left, that's where we're going to get our transferred out number. And if we scroll down to Part A3, transferred out, that's where I'm going to put that. Actually, they want in dollars, so I'll hold off. Actually, I got to hold off for a minute. We can actually go down to Part B. Units to be accounted for in work in process, how many were started, how many total units, and then here's where I wanted to get to. Actual units, units accounted for, transferred out. We can put that in. That was 1,290. Well, I was hoping I could, there we go. 120, okay. Now for materials, I want to know how many units did I actually take care of and use for material purposes. How many units did I use? And when we talked about in our discussion in the previous video, remember all units have everything put in at the very beginning for material purposes. So actually, all 530 for material purposes were 100% done. I'm not going to add any new materials to those. So therefore, it's like I didn't have any inventory, any ending inventory for my materials. So I simply want to just add in the 590 that I already started with, plus the 1,230 because all of the materials were already added right up front, day one, minute one. So actual materials is 1,820. Everything that I had already started plus the new stuff was 100% done for material purposes. Now for conversion costs, actually getting those materials into what they need to be, that's where it's a little bit different. And I need to concern myself with this 40% in the ending process, in the ending goods. So now how you get your conversion costs, remember what we want to do is take our items that were actually transferred out which was $12.90, and then add to that the 40% of the 530. So I had 530 units that were 40% done. So equivalently, that's like having 212 items completed in those ending items. Add that to the items that were transferred out, which was $12.90, what we have already figured up just a few minutes ago. And that's how I get how many items equivalent were done for conversion cost purposes, which would be 1502. Now when we get down here to A2, we're going to use these equivalent units and then combine that with the cost segment now, because they want to know how much did it cost per unit, per equivalent unit for materials. So I look back up here, and in materials I have two different amounts. I have the $7.90 for my beginning stuff that was already used, and I have the $29.20. I want to go ahead and combine those. So the $7.90 plus the $29.20, and for materials, so I get a total of $37.10, and then I would simply want to divide that over the equivalent units for materials. How many units do I need to divide that by? And that's where I have this 1820. So our answer here, and it tells us bring it out to the third decimal, so I get 2.038. Now we move to conversion costs. Conversion costs are what I had at the beginning of the month, 570, plus, remember that conversion costs include labor and overhead, so 1610 plus 1460. So I have a total conversion cost of 3640, and I want to divide that evenly out over the 1502 items for conversion costs. And to the third decimal, I get 2.423. Now we can begin to actually decide how much costs were transferred out, how much cost do I still have in my the ready that needs to be moved into next month, and for total cost for the month. So let's look at this. Transferred out costs. Well, I already determined that I had 1,290 items transferred out. And the cost for me to make an item is simply these two added together. So let's add these two together. We got the 2.038 for materials plus the labor and everything else that goes into it. So it cost me $4.46.1 or 4.461 to make one item. If I know that I have made and transferred out 1,290 of those, so I have a total cost transferred out of and it tells us to round to the nearest dollar. So 5755 would be my cost transferred out. Now, how much cost then do I still have in my ending inventory? Well, in ending inventory, it says I have, well, how I want to do this is I want to take my total cost again. It was 4.461. And I want to multiply that. Okay. Actually, sorry, not 4 point, that's for the whole thing. I'm just looking at materials. That's where I was confused here. Okay, so let's get back. We're looking at work in process for materials. Just for materials, they cost 2.038 per item. And it's telling me I have, remember I used all of my material, so 530. So that's 1,080 and materials in my work in process. Okay, now what I need to do, the second thing, is if I go back and remember what I had here, in my ending work in process, I had 212 units that were completed. Okay, so I'm trying to find my conversion cost work in process. Doing the math here. So that 530 times 40%, remember that was 512. If you or not 512, but 212. If you take 212 times 2.423, and we round that 513 and 60 cents to the nearest dollar, so we get $514 in conversion costs in my ending inventory, because that's how much I've actually had done. Simply add those two up, the 1,080 plus the 514, so I got 1,594 in ending inventory cost. And so total cost altogether for the month, add in now our transferred out cost, and I had 73.49. Okay. Now part B, some of this is quite easy. There isn't anything to even figure up. It's just kind of putting the numbers in a different spot. And some of this they've already given us in the opening information. Units to be accounted for in work in process on July 1. Well, it told us that up here. I had 590 items in work in process. That's simple enough just to carry down. Items that were started, it told me that as well. 1230. And then we simply just add those up. It just says total units here. So add those up and I got 1820. Physical units. So we've already got the 1290 units accounted for, transferred out. Now we're looking at physical units that are in process. And they tell us that as well. They say we have actually 530 items in our ending inventory. And if you add these up, it better be the same. We better be talking about the same number of units each way. If we look at how many did we start with, plus what how many did we already have, and then how many items did we start new, so total units. Or you can look at it as how many did you transfer out, plus how many do you still have left. And those two numbers better be the same no matter how you want to work it. Now let's move over here to equivalent units. Units accounted for, transferred out for materials. Well, if they are transferred out, that means they're 100% done. So if they're 100% done, there's nothing to calculate. All 1290 were 100% done, so they're transferred out. That's how many units were for both of them. Where it gets to be just a little different is when we talk about work in process, because they're not all the way done. Now, for material purposes, it tells us at the very beginning that they're 100% done for materials. No more materials are going to go into these units that are only partially done. All we've got to do is some labor left. And therefore, for labor purposes, we didn't complete 530. We completed 40% of 530, which was rounded to the nearest dollar, is 212 items. Now we just simply do the math here. This is the easy part. So again, this is 1820, and this totaled up is 1502. Now we look to the finishing section here. Unit costs. Okay, cost in July for materials. Well, they just gave it to us again up at the very beginning. We scroll up. cost for July, well, that includes what we started with, so let's put that in the calculator, 790, plus our direct materials of 2920, and we get the 3710 for materials. Equivalent units of materials, well, that's what this number right here tells us, the 1820. And now finally our unit costs. I think you maybe have recognized we've already done this calculation. Let's do it again. And that's that 2.038. It tells us again to take it out to the third decimal place for units. Now for my conversion costs, cost in July, come back up here, add the 570 plus the 1610 plus the 1460. I got the 3640. A lot of these numbers we've already calculated, but I went ahead and just did it again just to make sure. The equivalent units that we worked on, well, that's what this number was right here, 1502. And then we just do the simple math, 34. Let me see if I might have typed that in wrong here. My calculator showed 3640. I typed in 3460. Yeah, 3640. And then we take 3640 divided by 1502, and we get that same number that we had worked with before, 2.423. Okay, and then we simply just total over. If you add up these, it's 7350. Unit costs, simply combine them. Remember that was the 4.461. Now we're almost done. Our next number here is looking for cost to be accounted for work in process in July 1. Okay. So come back up here. Work in process for July 1. Let's add up the 790 plus the 570. I get 1360. Items cost to be accounted for items started into production. Okay, that's easy enough. Just add up the final three numbers. 2920 plus 1610 plus 1460. 5990. And then total cost, simply just add these guys up and you get, as you should, the same cost as we did above, 7350. And then our final thing here, cost reconciliation schedule. Costs accounted for that were transferred out, we've already done that. So let's go back up to my sheet. Costs that were transferred out. Where did we do that? That was up here. Cost transferred out was 5755, part of A3. Work in process for July 31 for materials. Again, I've already done it. It's just having me do basically everything twice. I got 1,080 in materials. 514 for conversion costs. Add those up, it was 1594. And then if you add these two together, you get 73.49, which is within $1 of doing it the other way, just simply due to rounding. So hopefully that's a help to start you out for this problem, and then the rest of the Wiley Plus items should be fairly similar to this. I will see you then for week 4 as you finish out here in week 3.